Season 6, Episode 2. So today, April, is my son's birthday. He's my second oldest. Today he turned 8, which is a
Wow.
giant deal. It is. It's crazy. He got a new haircut. He got presents today. We went out mini golfing. He's watching a new movie today. Well, he watched a new movie today. It's a bunch of stuff. Went to his favorite restaurant. All the things. Um,
Nice.
so when thinking about like birthdays, especially when I was a kid, 8 years old, I mean that's a big deal. Like you're getting into your own thing, and you have your own personality by now, and you have your likes, dislikes, and all that stuff, and you have friends. I remember I lived out in the woods growing up, and I had probably 10 or 12 boys all my age come over, and I was at about 8, 9, 10, maybe at the oldest. But when I think about birthdays, that was my favorite one. I had all these boys. We all played football in the yard. I ran into a bush. Like, we made my favorite cake, and we just all like bullied really, really hard, and we just had a cool, cool time. Give me a birthday that you think about. When you think about birthdays growing up, what's a birthday that stands out for you?
Well, true story. Birthdays are a little bit stressful. Not for me, but when my kids have birthdays. So kudos to you for making your son's birthday awesome. Because when my kids' birthdays come up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess this up, right? Normally I'm kind of chill, but for me, birthdays are such a big deal. If you hang around me, you know I celebrate my birthday all month long.
I
So
roll. Hashtag I'm kidding. Go
okay,
ahead.
it's fine. But because of that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want this birthday to be special. So I actually don't really know of a great birthday. I mean, I had great birthdays growing up, but nothing stands out. However, I will share a birthday that I celebrated one of my kids when it was their birthday. They did a cooking show themed birthday. And I have to share this because in true media fashion, like we set the kitchen up as if she was a cooking influencer, and she had her friends come over, and like she was like on this cooking show and was cooking, giving them directions while they're making their thing, and she's got the camera set up, and it was just such an awesome birthday that was really fun for her and for the kids. So that's
Wow.
my favorite by far
That's
birthday
really
that I
creative.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's really creative.
it
Yeah,
was
we didn't
really
do
cool.
anything like that. We haven't had anything like that. I will say, let me just give credit. Like, yeah, Emmett had a great birthday today because my wife, she is an excellent birthday decorator. I mean, she buys gifts throughout the year.
Aw.
I mean, my kids will probably hear me say this, but she has gifts for birthdays and Christmases and Valentine's Day and Easter's
Aw.
years ahead. Like it's, well, that'll be good for next birthday or something like that. Like, oh my
That's
gosh.
so
So
great. I
yeah,
just love your wife. She's amazing.
I got a good one. I got
You
to tell you,
too. She's
I got,
awesome. That's
yeah.
so
So
cool. That's very cool. I'm pumped to get into our leadership conversation. Now, if you missed last week, make sure you go back and listen. We talked about really leading with vision, and we're on this whole series this month about leading out loud. So when we say leading out loud, it's like, all right, I'm putting media out there. How can I use what I put out there to actually lead my audience, lead my clients, lead my people, lead my community? You fill in the blank. There are people that you are called to reach and influence in whatever industry you're in because you solve a problem for them. And you can use media to actually lead them to the solution. And we're going to kind of piggyback off that today and just talk about how do you set yourself up to actually do that? How do you build authority in your industry? Because it's one thing to say you're a thought leader, I'm going to lead these people, but what does that actually look like? How do I actually build that authority so that people want to hear what I have to say, so that people are going to follow what I'm saying so they actually can reach the destination? And I think one of the greatest ways to build authority is through content. Content, 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 content. I really believe that when you consistently put out content that delivers value, that gives a perspective that resonates with your people, but then also it speaks to your character and how you lead. People gravitate toward that. So I always say, okay, if I want authority in my industry, I know I got to be consistent. I got to make a connection, and I've got to show some sort of expertise. And that's kind of how I think about it in my brain. Am I connecting? Am I being consistent? Am I showing you some sort of expertise? Am I bringing value to your life or to your business or to your whatever it is I'm trying to affect? And I think this is so important because if you do that now, you are the go-to person. You're the go-to source. You're the go-to industry for whatever that thing is, right? And so a lot of people, if they need to buy something, they have that one brand, that one business that they think about automatically when they need to buy something, right? And so if someone says, "Oh, I got a new phone today," people are going to think of probably two types of phones, right? iPhone or Android. Those are the two things. No, I'm not going to put any shade on other brands, but no one's probably going to say anything else other than those two. And if you have something other than those two, DM us immediately after this episode so we can lead you in the right direction. But it's like, you want to be that go-to, right? When people think about elevating their brand, we want them to think about, oh, I need to go to We Dream Media immediately. And so we have to set ourselves up to be in that position. And every single business, that should be the mindset. Whatever content I'm putting out there, I want to build some sort of authority. I want people to know, like, I am the go-to person. And so where does that even start? It starts by thinking about what types of content are you sharing. Every single business, every single entrepreneur out there, you need core things that you talk about. And you're going to think about you talk about them too much, but you don't, right? So every single time, like when we talk and when we're sharing media, we're going to talk about stories. We're going to talk about building connection. We're going to talk about digital footprint. We're going to talk about different ways you can get out there with podcasting or social media. These are our foundational things. And are we going to talk about them over and over and over and over? Absolutely. And again and again and again. And I think some people miss it. It's like, man, I keep talking about it. Are people going to get tired of me talking about it? Well, no, you talking about it helps people know that you are the go-to person for that thing. And I think that's so, so, so important. So I would love to just your thoughts on that, Mitchell. Just initially, we have to make sure that we don't get tired of saying what we're saying because people need to hear it again and again and again, and it builds authority.
Well, two things on that. I think one about again and again. So in leadership, I have learned that when you think you have said it enough times, when you think you have communicated it enough in all the different ways, when you arrive there, then you also have arrived or have realized that your goose is really cooked because you haven't done it enough. Um, like you do have to continue to repeat yourself, which is good in the content world because I mean you don't have to come up with these new revelations and new ideas. I mean, maybe new ideas on how to deliver and creative ways and all that stuff, but the core content is kind of the same. um the other thing I thought when you were talking is you mentioned the word authority, like being the authority in whatever kind of market or space that you're in. And you know, I'm thinking about different personalities. And I think for you and um, and maybe even more so with you, but I still have this, but like, you talked about like jumping off a cliff and, I'm a little bit slower to jump off, but I don't have a problem jumping off with a little push and maybe, whatever. But my point though, is that, maybe that word authority and I kind of think of like taking the bull by the horns or, um, like leading, and taking authority when no one else is. And for some that could be a little scary. I know honestly for my wife, it would be, she would be a lot slower than me, to do that. And one thing that I have realized is maybe some people are slower because they don't think they have the thing that people need to know. Maybe they don't see the value in what they have and who they are. But I was just having a conversation with a mutual friend, and she was talking about how that they were talking about this topic, and the one of the quietest people in the room started to speak up, and everything she was saying was pure gold. And this person does not really take authority, take the bull by the horns, doesn't lead the pack. But when she spoke about a topic that they were talking about, she absolutely knew her stuff. And what she was saying was helping the people in the room that they were all in. So, regardless of your personality, you're going to have experiences that is going to bring value to other people in your business, in your organizations, in the spaces that you have that you find yourself in. So, don't be afraid to leverage those things, and so that you can use that to propel your business, propel your product, your services. Again, whatever space that you find yourself in.
Yeah, that's really important to mention because authority doesn't mean loud, right? So think about, well, for me, I think about growing up. Sometimes my mom didn't have to say anything. She could just look at me
That's
and
so true.
I knew there was some authority. Like she had authority and she didn't have to say one word, right? So authority is you are the go-to person. You are the one leading the people, and that does not equal being loud. There are some people that are really loud that aren't really adding value to the space.
Mm.
We're not talking about that, right? But we are talking about adding so much value to the space that when you do talk, people listen and they're moved to take action. So that's just so
Yeah.
important. So when
One
you
more
build a,
point on that.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So I know that when talking to my kids, they do listen when I'm loud, but it's a whole different ear that I have when I'm quiet and I'm telling them something very important that they need to know. The quieter I am, the quieter they are, the more less uh they just receive it differently. We've been talking about family, and I've been talking about my wife. You bragged on my wife. I want to brag on my wife again. She's very quiet. She'll be in a room and you won't even know she's there. But when she speaks, not only do kids perk up most of the time, but people, the space that she finds herself in, usually people will just be quiet so they can hear the quiet person speak, and she'll drop gold. It's the common thing with her. So
Yeah.
that's such a great point.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, and it's important that like you say, no matter the personality that you have, that doesn't mean you are better at walking in authority or not walking in authority,
Right.
right? At the end of the day, as the entrepreneur, am I leading with vision? Am I adding value? Am I helping people to say yes to the solution that I have ultimately is what it boils down to. And we can do that so well with the content that we share. We talked about consistency and saying things again. And it also means the types of content is going to vary, right? And so we want that content that's going to teach people something, maybe. We want that content that's going to share a story or a lesson. And we want that content that's going to show the process, right? The behind the scenes or your day-to-day things. There's so many different ways that you can share content. Some people share content about different viewpoints in their industry. Maybe you have an industry and there's a point that's really, I don't want to say it brings tension, but it's like you're on either the left side or the right side kind of coin, heads or tails kind of thing. Be bold. Like if you believe something, be okay to say it. These are all important things when it comes to building authority in your brand. People that have authority, I believe, no matter if they're soft or loud, they speak with conviction. It's like, hey, I know this to be true. I know this solution can help you. Here you go. It's like, here you go. So I think that's really important as far as the types of content that people share. So I don't know about Mitchell, what's your favorite type of content to consume, right? What content do you consume mostly and you're like, "Oh, I gravitate to that." Is it the content, and I already know the answer to this, but we're just going to ask the question anyway.
I'm trying
Is
to
it the
think what your answer. I'm trying to think what you think my answer would be.
is the content like, oh man, they're teaching me something I should know, or they're sharing a lesson with me of this story, or they're sharing me their process, or they're speaking bold about what they believe. What type of content do you think you gravitate to saying, "Oh man, there's an authority in the industry"?
So, uh, huh. That's a good question. And I'm trying to, also, I'm worrying too much about trying to think about what your answer for me would be. I'm just interested. Tell me what your answer is without telling me first. Well,
Absolutely not.
after.
Absolutely not.
I mean, in previous podcasts, I mean, I love visuals, and I do love stories. So it depends on the situation I'm in. So like in the morning when I'm getting ready, like, I mean, sitting down in dad's chair watching the news, that doesn't happen anymore. I think all of my dude friends, well, actually probably a couple, like they probably have that chair, but that does not exist in my household. We don't sit down and watch the evening news or anything like that. So I think I'd try to catch up on current events and news and like whatever, like in the morning when I'm getting ready, that's kind of playing in the background. And if I have a question, I'll look it up on YouTube or something like that. But like, I mean, my life really is centered around content and the tools needed to do it and the resources needed to do it. So there's a lot of that stuff. I mean, if you go and ask my kids, they'll tell you it's a video about a camera. Everything's about a camera. It's not about cameras, but there's a lot of, I'm sure, over the years. But I mean, I would say two answers. Like one, like visual content for sure reigns a lot. I'm kind of close to everything, so there's not a lot, like everything I need to go to, so it's not a lot of audio. Um, but video for sure, visuals, and then the second answer would be stories, like anything with a story. So like in the evening when we're chilling and we're sitting down, it's movies. We're movie people over series, TV series people, but there's a couple of series, but yeah, story, uh, current event and tools and resources for content, and then the second answer would be stories for sure. What would be the answer that you would give that you would think I would say?
I felt like it was gonna be story
Okay.
for sure. Just
Okay.
from hanging out and just
Yeah.
knowing. I'm like, when someone shares a story, I feel like you definitely that connection is like, okay, I can connect with this. And now I
Yeah.
want to hear what you have to say because I can connect with your story.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you weren't wrong. Yeah. 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 Stories
That's
definitely
good.
is a big part. And
Yeah.
even my little girl. So I do also do weddings, and my little girl is so crazy. She has people that she follows, which is crazy, and so one of them got married. She wanted to show me the wedding video, so we sat down and watched the wedding video, and I watched, I didn't watch the whole thing, but like I was connected in it, like it's easier for me to like try to find ways to relate and connect. I won't ever forget it. After I had Lillian, my oldest one, I watched a commercial about parenting or something like that, and I got teary eyed. Like, what is happening? So, like, stories. I mean, you can't go wrong, with me and stories. So, yeah, good pick.
I love that. I think for me, it's a tie between teaching me how to do something or showing me the process. And I think that just speaks to my personality. Like, I'm like, I need the plan. What's the process? What are we going to do? Like, let's go. So if you're showing me the plan and the process, I'm like, all right, I could jive with that. So
Yeah,
I
good
love
stuff.
that. One last thing I want to do talk about is when you are building authority, creating your content, thinking about the types of topics you're going to talk about, the content pillars. We talked about the types of content as far as, teaching something behind the scenes. And the last thing I'll say is you have to have both long form and short form content. I think that's important too, because a lot of people gravitate toward one or the other when both are so important, right? When I have that long form content like podcasts, blogs, YouTube videos, that long form content is the thing that really is going to build trust with people, and it's going to let people really know, like, man, this is a thoughts leader, like this person is an expert in the industry.
So, on short form, long form content, you hit a really good point on that because different people are gravitated to their thing, which is so true, very true. For me, I like long form content. I like the hour and a half long podcast or whatever, talking about whatever kind of topic. But there's some situations where I know I'm looking for just Either you caught me in between something, I have nothing else to do, and so I'm just going to go through some shorts or some reels or something like that. I tell you, oftentimes too, I'll go to reels, but probably shorts on YouTube quicker if I'm looking for an answer on something. So if I just need a quick answer, I'm hoping that there's a content creator that has, kind of, I don't want to know details. I don't want to know real world application. I have a real world application right now, and I just need an answer for this one little thing. Just tell me what we got going on here. And usually shorts on YouTube are the answer for that. I've tried reels on Instagram. It doesn't really work. So, but yeah, like, and one other thing I want to say to that too is you might be better at long term. You might be better at short form. Long form, short form. You might be better at one of those things. And also I'm a big proponent on if you have a really strong muscle in doing this one thing, then do it. It's not necessarily you have to work on and focus only on your weakness to get your weakness up. Go ahead and do your strengths. So do your strengths, but also understand the importance in this particular point. If you're really good at shorts, that's awesome because people do absorb short form, but also figure out how you can make a long form work. And in whatever way. And again, don't over focus on it and overcorrect and get into the other ditch, but understand that both are important and you just got to figure out how to do both.
Yeah, no, I love it. We want to diversify the content that we're putting out there because that allows us to reach more people and builds us up as an authority in the industry. So I'm
Perfect.
super excited to hear what our listeners are going to implement based on this episode. Maybe you're watching this today and you're like, oh man, I got to get my core themes and pillars set. If that's you, I want to encourage you, like, do that today. Know the themes you're going to talk about, or maybe you're like, I know my themes, but I need to think about what types of content I'm going to post. Maybe I do a lot of educational, but I don't show the process, or vice versa, right? As I'm talking to you guys, in my own mind, I'm like evaluating the content that I put out because usually we gravitate toward a certain form or a certain type. So I'm like, man, I want to make sure I'm adding some of these other types in. And then if you are short form or long form, I want to encourage you to sprinkle the other in. So if you gravitate towards short, try to sprinkle in long, and then vice versa. Because at the end of the day, consistent content that adds value is one of the fastest ways to build authority in your industry.
So one of the big benefits of having or being quicker to do a long form over short form, if you have long form, your short form are basically built already. There's resources out there that will help you cut it up, or you can cut it up manually or whatever. And if you have questions on that, let us know, send us a DM. But if you have long form down, your short form, you just have to just pivot just a little bit and make a stop off the highway, get your short form done off your long term or your long form, and you're golden. Now, if you're quicker and better at short form, okay, you might have to work a little bit harder. And there's ways around that and there's ways to it. But if you're a long form person, if that's quicker for you to make, then your short form will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Work smarter, right? Not harder. How can you create something and then use it in multiple ways? We've talked about repurposing on previous episodes. And so I love that. We're excited for you in your content journey. We're excited for you to build yourself as an authority in your field. Do that by creating content. If we can help you in any way, make sure to DM us. Let us know. We would love to set up a call to consult with you so that you are truly elevating your brand using media. If you have not subscribed to this podcast, make sure to subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. We can't wait to be back next week with some more ideas on how you can lead out loud. And so until we see you next week, remember, together we
We dream
dream
media.
media.